Welcome, Sarah, to the Sales Sounding Board. Would you please introduce yourself to the guests?
Thank you. Yes, I am Sarah Jones. I'm from Norwich, born and bred. It's a lovely part of the country in the beautiful countryside. And I work in the hospitality industry and have done for 20 years now. And so I'd like to think I have a wealth of experience in hospitality. On the sales side, I've been in sales for the best part of probably 12 years. So again, I have a good background of both sales and hospitality. I had a year out where I had a little dabble in a estate agency, so I have another sort of side of sales from that aspect also. So the sort of more hard-hitting, gritty side of the sales.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd like to just talk to you today about a bit of both, really, a bit of the hospitality with the struggles and things we're going through at the moment, and how I like to see the bright side coming out of it, and a bit of the sales side to see how we can talk about what we can do to, again, come through and recover from it.
No, that's fine, Sarah. I mean, obviously, the hospitality industry has been hit hard. And still isn't yet out. We're not into that post-COVID stage yet. And obviously that's going to have an impact for a number of years, as everybody tells me, on the hospitality industry. You're going to adjust and change. And you're well established. How long have you been with your present organisation?
So I currently work for Barnham Broom, which is a beautiful countryside resort on the outskirts of Norwich. And I have now been there a year and 8 months.
So you're well established. Obviously, things are going to change. How do you see the changes in hospitality working out over the next, I think, 2-3 years?
I think it's going to go in different windows. So I think for the next 3 months, it's going to be about concentrating on what we can get in booking-wise with the new regulations that are going to be in place for distancing and things. So it's going to mean potentially only being able to use 50% of our room stock, having to leave rooms off for potentially 24 hours in between people staying in them, and housekeeping are being allowed to service them. For meetings and events, due to the spaces that's going to be required in between people, we're going to drastically reduce by at least 50% the capacity that we could have. I think also for the dining side of it, again, we're going to have to lose half our furniture to allow distancing and spaces between tables. So again, we're going to lose capacity there. So I think the short sort of 3-month window is going to be massively impacted in that respect, where as much as we might and hopefully will be allowed to open from the 4th of July, we're not going to be anywhere near back going, open the doors and going, it's okay, we're back to normal. Let's go fill our rooms, let's fill our function rooms, let's fill our restaurant. It's not going to be the case. But then after Christmas, hopefully, or over Christmas and after Christmas, hopefully they'll relax slightly more, so that potentially people from the same households and same workplaces can sit closer maybe, so that then we can allow a bit more capacity in that respect. Bedrooms, again, perhaps we might not have to leave them for 24 hours. We might just be able to service them and then leave them to air for the rest of that day, to allow people to come back in. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be testing. It's going to be trial and testing, I think, for a long time.
So you were sort of looking at sort of almost 6 months of transition.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just speaking to some clients today about some events that they've got in just in August and September this year. And they're only small events for sort of 20 people, but they're like, are they going to be able to go ahead? And it's trying to reassure people and sort of empathise with them and say, look, we want it to go ahead as much as you do, but we have to make sure it's safe for everybody. So it's reassuring people, making sure we can make it safe for people, giving them options. So perhaps let's not do a theatre style meeting where you're all in little chairs next to each other. Let's open it up to a meeting with cabaret style and different layouts and things. It might mean we have to use a bigger room. It might mean changing dates because of that, but we'll try and work with you. And I think it's just really important to give people a bit of positivity, a bit of hope, a bit of reassurance, and just let them know that you're there to support them and work with them. And we all want it to happen. So let's all just try and bear with each other and see what we can do.
Yeah, I get the sense you're sort of trying to be optimistic, because
Yeah.
we will get over this, we will come forward, but
Mm-hmm.
the transition is going to be a bit of a moving feast
Yeah.
while we get everything in place. And then hopefully, obviously, it will start rolling back out more as normal. I mean, obviously you've done fairly large corporate events, I believe, that correct?
Yeah, and especially at Barnham Broom where I am now, and the Mercure Hotel where I was prior had a larger function space. So the Mercure had a big room for 300 people. So they'll now be able to allow sort of fairly large events still, but with distancing in that respect. For me now at Barnham Broom, I'm talking to people about potentially holding events outdoors. We've got 300 odd acres of land, so I'm saying potentially we could look at doing something with an outdoors aspect to it, or bringing evening events to daytime events, so that again they can be incorporated with some outdoors to allow some air and more distancing and just some fresh air and things as well, to make sure if you're in a space with someone for a long time as opposed to sort of 10-15 minutes in a supermarket, lowering the interaction. And
with your outside events, would you sort of bring in the modern technologies, the sort of virtual setups and outdoor screens, etc.? Because obviously they're all there now in the melting pot.
again, that's something that we've got to consider as a venue. We've got to potentially consider that people might want marquees, might want screens outdoors. So yeah, it's all about looking at options that we can do. It's got to be feasible for us, safe for us and our staff as much as it has for the clients. So yeah, it's just trying to look at options and sort of think outside the box and make sure things can happen, but safely.
Yeah, and obviously, as you say, you've got 300 acres to play with, so space isn't the issue.
No.
It's how you integrate it with how to put the event on. I mean,
Yeah.
how are you getting a sense from the customers? Obviously, we always have, even in good times, a churn within businesses. Businesses go up, go down. There's always those that are sort of plateaued. Do you get a sense of optimism within the businesses you're talking to?
I think optimism, but I think they're also looking to us for some optimism and hope. They're contacting us, or we're contacting them and speaking to them, and they're asking us, can it happen? When can it happen? How can it happen? And they want answers and reassurance from us more than anything, I think, at the moment. And as much as we want to keep the business for financial reasons, we want to keep those relationships as well. So it's about just trying to support our clients and customers and guide them as much as we can at the moment. And yeah, we want to make it work for everybody.
Obviously, we are going to lose companies out of this situation. There are those that are going to be damaged to such a point that they won't be able to continue trading. But obviously, I always say, out of the ashes of any company failure, there are obviously always new shoots. How do you see that working? How do you normally work with those? You've been around sales long enough to experience companies going down and the new shoots coming through. How you sort of envisage working with that now?
So, okay, again, we've already lost some clients who unfortunately have gone under as such, and others that are going to be not being able to hold events and things anymore for financial reasons. We've got companies that are having to change their layouts and the way they work as a business themselves, where they've found they've had people working remotely from home and thinking, actually, this has worked. So do we need to have this big office space? But then with that comes the opportunity that, because they don't have the office space that they used to have, where they may have had their in-house meetings and their in-house training and things, that's going to be the new shoots for us to develop with them, to offer training room hire and meeting room hire. So that's one way of looking at it. And others who are traveling around that might have had meetings on site with people in their businesses, again, might now need a venue because they might not have that space anymore. So yeah, there's different opportunities for us in that respect, across the board in varied aspects.
There is comments going out there, for some people, we will see the end of face-to-face meetings. one initially, but also companies may choose to carry on that going forward, in the same vein that working from home can be very successful for some. It can be horrifying for others, and they cannot wait to get back into their normal office environment. But there are those that will say, this is great working from home. It's sort of a blessing. But in all this, there has to be a medium. And face-to-face meetings, I've been on the road and worked with organizations and venues like yourself. I often held client meetings, a nice venue, nice cup of coffee, have a good conversation and move on. And that's an advantage of your sort of venue. But obviously that there is going to be a bit of a transition in that. Obviously there are organizations out there like you've spoken that will hold training rooms and adjust them and put the technology to do virtual training in place, because there is a balance. Some of this was always going to happen, but we've accelerated the path. So do you see that virtual mode? How do you see that integrating within your organization?
I think, again, lots of people are going to be working on virtual meetings and things, but then there is also the thing of people needing a good backdrop, a good quiet area to hold those events and those meetings. I know, for example, a lot of the Zoom meetings I've been on, people working from home have had a dog start jumping in and barking, or barking in the garden, or a child running in the room, or they've got dinosaurs on the wall, on the wallpaper behind them and things. So I think, again, that's another option that we can give. We can give somebody a nice, peaceful background for those meetings. So although they're potentially not going to be holding them on site with all the people there, I do think that gives us an opportunity to offer a background for them to still hire the room, just not potentially with all the catering and everything that would normally come with it.
That's certainly, I think that's how it will play out for some, because they're always the venue in the right place, and obviously people scattered throughout the country. I mean, my career has taken me to sort of 6 hours driving time to get to a hotel to do when quite honestly with today's technology I could have stayed at home and got just as much out of it as a virtual. But for some of the people, they needed to have been there to host it and conduct the training or the meeting. So I think, yes, we're going to have a leveling. Obviously, there are economics involved, because the hospitality industry, you get a great deal of profit from those add-on services. And obviously, that's an adjusting time for organizations like yourself. There is this churn that's going to go on, because we will see companies, and it's already out there, losing and saying, we don't need all this office space going forward. We don't need all this. But in a way, there will be other growth, I think, in other areas. Certainly, I'm communicating with people that believe we'll bring more manufacturing back in country. And I think that will be wealth, because that's another stream of customers for yourself. So I think those looking at those opportunities may be something in your sales role. I mean, do you see that? Do you believe that will be relevant?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've already been looking at things like that, where I'm looking now at companies that I'm going to be potentially looking to focus on, like manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, IT, for like the people doing the mobile services and fibre services and things like that. So like BT and Sky and people. So yeah, people offering different services that are going to be needing to come in the area to set things up for people and get people going on the virtual side of things. Also, yeah, manufacturing and pharmaceutical and things are something that I think are going to be in the forefront at the moment. And agriculture again, because especially with all the panic buying, that all needs to be replaced. And I think that was why some of those industries were already then classed as key workers and were allowed to stay at the hotel to replenish and get us all back up to stock and things to survive and keep eating and what have you. So yeah, I think it's going to be a change of direction for who uses the hotels and hospitality, but I think there still will be the need out there, just like you say, potentially for different people for a little while.
We're not as open in this country with statistics, but I know America is, and they've highlighted that 72% of all their pharmaceuticals were produced outside America. And obviously they're looking to shift that balance, and I think other countries will. So, you know, I can look and conversations I'm having, and there's certainly a lot of people saying manufacturing will potentially grow. I think agriculture will grow because we are going to leave Europe, and that is going to change things. So I think you're correct. There will be some new markets. I mean, you're in the sales side. How do you see your role? Do you see changes in your role? I mean, obviously, there's always sometimes in sales is part marketing as well. I mean, do you see changes in your role, and do you see that in other connections you have in other organisations?
Yeah, I mean, obviously over the last 3 months, my role has changed massively, where I've not been able to contact people, where I'd normally potentially just go out on business drops and turn up at businesses with information and ask who deals with things and try and arrange a meeting with them in that way. So there's been none of that. There'd be people maybe staying at the hotel. So I'd stand on the desk and wait for people as they check in to introduce myself and find out why they're staying, where they're working in the area, who else is staying with them, try and build on a relationship, set up some rates. Again, not been able to do any of that. So it's all being went completely off. There was no contact with anyone. Everyone just sort of disappeared for the first 4 weeks. And then slowly I was able to get in touch with people again just by sending a few emails and softly, just a hi, how are you? Are you at work? Are you furloughed? That sort of thing, just trying to get a feel for who's out there, who is still communicating. Then it was trying to put in some calls, and again, trying not to make it too hard hitting sales calls because people were very sensitive. So again, it was just trying to find a way of finding out and seeking who's still out there, then finding out who wants to talk to you. A lot of the people I used to talk to were furloughed completely with no contact, and therefore then had to find a new person to speak to in the interim. So again, it was almost starting again with a company that I've been working with for years, but I had to start all over again with them. Like it was back in the day when you had to speak to the right people to find out who you need to speak to get to the right person. It was like that all over again. And then slowly now some of the people that I had originally always dealt with are coming back. So then it's like, hey, you're back again. So yeah, it's been very different. But again, like myself, a lot of people are still working from home. So they may be at work and dealing with people still, but they're still not in their normal working environment. I can't say to people, do you want to come for coffee like I normally would, which is how I love to work. I'd rather see people, and I do believe in face-to-face. I'm not a big lover of virtual meetings for sales. I think people do buy people. And I think it's really hard to make a bond and a relationship and a trust with someone through a screen. I think you do need that personal touch. So yes, that's going to be the massive change, and the thing that I need to consider and develop into my role now is to overcome the way to connect with somebody through a screen where you can't buy them a nice coffee and a cake to butter them up, and you've got to somehow win them over just through you.
Yeah. Yes. The perks have gone.
Yes.
So, I mean, I've obviously speak to a lot of people, and I certainly have had one gentleman say his depth of understanding about the people in the organisation and how they interact with each other has sort of mushroomed to a phenomenal level now, because he's talking to not just his one main contact, he's talking to 3 or 4 others.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a much deeper understanding of each of them, because, as he says, he's seen the chief exec's children walk through.
Yes.
The finance director's cat who wanted to be part of the video.
Yeah.
So do you think that's been a positive?
I think that can be. It can be a negative in a way sometimes if you're trying to talk to someone and they're going, hold on, I've just got to deal with my child. And then they're distracted, and then it's hard to bring them back into the little flow you were in. But I think, again, if it is like the director's cat and you've got something you can connect with them on, then something to then build something personable about them, and that then gives you a little insight into them and something that you can build on with them. So it is helpful in that respect, I think, to be able to see their background and their lives and get a little insight into what you might be able to pick at to connect with them on.
Yes, I think we get a deeper understanding because we interact with each other because of how we imagine each other. But what this is doing is removing some of that imagination and bringing us much more into a reality. And you're in sales the same as I was, and we can often say, well, how's the cat getting on? How's that? It somehow gives you a deeper personal connection.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think if you do remember that about somebody as well, I know even from previous meetings prior to lockdown, I think if you've met someone and they've mentioned in their meetings, perhaps their daughter's getting married next month, and then you see them a couple of months later and say, how did the wedding go? And they go, oh, you remembered. And I think people do like that you remember their favourite things or something about them. I think just even from my days on reception at the hotels, people loved it when they checked in and you remembered their name and their favourite room that they liked, and get to the bar and you remember their drink or their newspaper or just the little things. It makes them feel at home, and it makes them feel reassured, I think, that they feel like you know them, and then they feel like they can know you back. And I think that's another massive thing. I think it gives people a bit of a trust element with you.
Yes, and I think you've mentioned the famous word now in sales, everything is about trust. That now is so important, building those relationships, getting that trust across. That's the hard thing. I mean, I've certainly been part of conversations where people talk of the empty suit, the corporate image and nothing else. And I think we've all gone now beyond that. We want to have a conversation with the person, and regardless of the role, whether it's the chairman of the board or just somebody who works in the system, those relationships are important.
Yeah, definitely. I would just be interested to see if when we do start having sort of sales meetings again and sales appointments, if people will turn up in pajama bottoms and a suit on the top. Yes. I think that's what a lot of people are doing now. So that would be interesting to see.
Yes. I was part of a conversation. We talk of a good design idea would be posh pajama tops.
Yes.
But yes, and that's sort of quite true. We have a lot of people now have changed because a home environment, one, I think it makes people more relaxed because it's their world. You get to know everything about their world, but it is that letting you in mode, because obviously you're working from home, so I can see your light fitting, your wall colours, etc. But it is, in a way, we're letting each other in each other's world.
Yeah, but I think that's also going to be the difficulty after all of this. It's going to be, how do you, not just for clients but for staff, after a little taste of freedom and relaxation in working in that environment, how are you going to start sort of motivating people and cultivating people and enticing clients in again? So yeah, I think it's going to be a very different world when we are starting to go back to it again, because people, not only is it going to be going back to the old norm, I think we're going to have to create a new norm.
You've got a lot of connections throughout the world, I believe, in people similar roles to yourself. Do you see this as a sort of global image and understanding of what's going to happen?
Yeah, and I do think that lockdown has given me opportunity to develop relationships with people globally that I potentially may not have had before. So sort of speaking to people in other hotels across the world to get feedback and insights on what's happening with them and where they're at. So people who are maybe slightly ahead of us, what they're working on, how they're working, and what things are developing with them, and getting some ideas and inspiration from them as well, so they can potentially already tell me things that they've tried that have worked but failed, or things that have worked and helped and benefited from. So I think that's definitely something that I've built on over the last, especially the last month.
Obviously, I get the sense of sharing of information, that sort of group wisdom is valuable in business.
Yeah, I've had various group calls with companies like Pegasus, who are one of the global booking engines and booking channels. And in that call, you may have had like people like myself. As a hotelier in the UK, there were a couple of people from hotels in the UK. There was someone from Egypt, there was someone from Tokyo, then there were some of the people from Pegasus itself. There was a head of client relations at Capita and American Express Travel. So that was a really good call, because it had opinions from hotels of what they think is happening, but then it had the people from the travel companies saying, no, this is what the clients are going to want, this is what you need to do, this is what they're asking us for when they're choosing a hotel. So that was really good. And it was all about, don't drop your pants on the rates. People aren't going to be looking for cheap and cheerful, they're going to be looking for safe and secure now. So get your policies in place of how you're going to make people safe when they're with you, and publish those, make sure people know that you are going to be making them safe, how you're going to be making them safe. And it was really interesting to think of it in that way, that, it's not about upselling as such anymore. It's not about offering them a free bacon sandwich on arrival. It's going to be, have you got hand sanitizer on arrival? And just different aspects that everyone's going to have to consider now.
Yeah, building on the value.
Yeah, but more than value as a physical thing, like I say, like an expense. It's going to be more a value of care and comfort. So I think they're saying that, like, the smaller independent hotels may be something that people are going to be looking for more now, as opposed to a big chain hotel, because they'll want less footfall. They won't want to be in a big crowded hotel. They'll prefer to be one that's only got 50 rooms, so you've potentially got maximum of 100 people, say, with smaller corridors and less space in the restaurants and things, because they're going to want to feel safe and secure.
It sounds like those interactions have given you a new depth, which wouldn't have happened pre-COVID. So
No.
You're sort of now working globally, and your depth of knowledge, and which is really moving the organisation forward.
Mm.
Do you see any significant one or two significant changes, or do you see it as a lot of small building processes of change?
I think definitely a lot of small building processes of change. I sort of touched on it earlier, where we're going to potentially have to look at reducing things and slowly opening them up again to full capacity again. Staff are going to be the same. If we're only opening half the rooms, we're only going to need half the housekeepers. Restaurant and bar, again, if one bar is open and not two, we're only going to need the staff for one. Same with the kitchens. So it's going to be testing for a while, I think.
Your industry is going to go through huge change, where some won't go through anywhere near the level. Obviously, that in effect some of that may be there forever.
Yeah, I think definitely some's going to be forever. And I feel for some of the smaller places, like just the people who have just got a bar or maybe a small pub or something without any grounds, because again, when are they going to be able to open? If they can't allow social distancing because they are that small quirky little pub or restaurant, then what's going to happen with them? I mean, are they going to be looking at next year, and can they survive until next year? And it's going to be difficult to manage for a while for people. We've got golf courses. We've got 2 golf courses. So the golf was able to open last month. So we've had some revenue coming in from the golf for the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, which is obviously helping us to start getting back on some stepping stone of financial recovery, to then allow some more staff back in. Whereas, like I say, those who don't have that are just going to have to start from scratch almost.
Yes, and I think there will be inevitable casualties. Your organisation, you've got the facilities, the space, the freedom to adjust and adapt. And I think you're right. Some of the very small venues, this may be one step too far. I mean, you're obviously looking at new marketplaces. You're looking to adjust and transition over time. Do you see a long-term effect, because your business, it's a global business, and tourism has been growing over time? Your industry has been one that was growing over the period. As we all got more leisure time, we all grew more. Ultimately, do you still see the growth happening?
I think we're trying to focus on the fact that people, as much as they won't be coming to us from abroad, people from the UK won't be going abroad so much either. So we're, again, fortunate that we're a lovely venue in a lovely location, lovely countryside location, with golf, leisure, spa, lovely brasserie restaurant, amazing chefs. So I think we're fortunate that we're going to have an attraction for people to come to. And I think that's something that businesses are going to have to focus on and look at within and say, what can we offer? What do people want? And what can we offer to match that? And let's try and create something to do that so that they come to us. And I think that's in any area. I don't think that's just hospitality. I think it's going to be about trying to look at what people want now. What do people want and need? And trying to come up with an offering to match it.
Putting your sales hat on as a sales, because a lot of salespeople are going to have to start changing to work differently.
Mm-hmm.
You've obviously got a lot of connections within sales people and the roles they're doing. Do you see some of them struggling with these changes? Because you've changed, you're working differently.
Yeah.
Do you see that rolling out some of those challenges to others in sales roles?
Definitely. I think in any other sales role, whether it's something where you're normally a one-to-one basis or a shop perhaps, where people are now going to be looking to do more online, I think everyone's going to have to adapt to who they talk to, how they talk to them, and what they offer people. I think it's just going to be really just about trying to give people options, think outside the box, go the extra mile for people and adapt with them.
Yes, and I think that's true because, you know, I've spent decades of sort of face-to-face meetings, and that's going to go away for quite some time. And like you said, selling via a virtual screen is difficult.
Mm.
And I coach some people on that now because it's a different set of skills, definitely. And it's much harder. You build a gradual process, not an instant. You can't sort of sit across somebody and ask them, is this what you want, yes or no? Because it doesn't work that way. So
No.
I think there's certainly a change and a transition going on. And I think this is probably, we changed the world of sales change with the information technology, but this almost is the next big change in my view. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, as a salesperson, my process has always been what I call a sandwich. So you have your two outer layers where your warm niceties. So you warm up to someone, you find out about them, find out what they want. And then you have your meat in the middle where you're then going to go for your hard sell, if you like, and try and match that need and give them their meat. And then you have your other layer of the sandwich where you then end on niceties, wrap it up, and perhaps then come to your close and make a date with somebody to meet up or what have you. So you're not going to have that close part, I think, to potentially have as the nicety. So, okay, that was great. Let me have a think about it, and then we'll arrange a date to meet for a coffee to go over your plans. It's going to be great. Let me have a think about it, and I'll call you again, and we'll have another FaceTime. You know, so it's going to be different in that respect, but I think it's still going to be the same process. It's still going to be, but I think the first part of the sandwich is going to be vital for you now more than ever to try and get that information from somebody and try and find that need and that link with somebody.
Yeah. So more research.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I've even been doing that more myself prior to speaking to people on the phone or anything now, is trying to find out more about them, the company, what they've done with other people, where they've been, what they might do moving forward, so that you know a bit about them before you speak to them.
Yes, it's something I talk to a lot of people down. We're in an age where we share so much information, way too much.
Yeah.
It's just finding how to find it, but it's there. We've got to find it. And obviously LinkedIn has grown dramatically, and I'm sure you use LinkedIn because a lot of the people you're looking at in the corporate world, the business world, you're going to find through LinkedIn. Yeah,
I've always loved LinkedIn. I think I was one of the first people on there in Norwich. That was down to one of my old bosses, Marcus Piercy, who has a couple of hotels in the area, but he also had some other businesses which were very much online back then. And so I was fortunate to share an office with some of those people who were IT techie geeks and taught me the world of LinkedIn before it was really even known about. So I've always been a massive fan of LinkedIn.
No, that's understandable, and I think LinkedIn is just going to keep growing because I just think it's the way forward for anybody that's around in a sales environment.
I think LinkedIn is going to grow more and more now because of the virtual side too. Not being able to go out and do those business drops, going out to buildings. People aren't going to be able to just turn up anymore. So it's going to be, let's go on LinkedIn and find the company and find the right person through the right people, through the connections through LinkedIn and things, and warm introductions through that as well.
Just sort of looking at you've got the land, you've got the assets. Do you think there will be additions that your organisation, because you've got 2 golf courses, but do you envisage other facilities being added within, and they may be slightly out of the norm?
Nothing at the moment, sort of potentially that we're considering right now. But again, as we start opening and getting feedback from people or seeing a need that we can't fill, that's when we'll start looking at things that we might need to do, for example, like marquees or gazebos and things outside, or maybe outdoor activities more and things. I think that will be something that we'll build on and find out about as we go along.
We're sort of coming on to sort of time. I always say to people, can you sort of think of 3 things? They could be thoughts, wisdom, things to do differently, you could share with others, because obviously you're highly experienced in what you do and you're obviously very much on the ball. Have you got sort of 3 things you'd like to share?
Well, I guess some little bullet points that I wrote down to sort of reflect on during this conversation is one was positivity. I think you've got to try and keep yourself positive, but also give positivity to people that you're talking to. So you need to give them some hope. Positivity is massive at the moment, with everybody feeling quite sort of insecure and nervous at the moment. So I think that's something that I would definitely offer as a piece of advice. Be positive yourself and offer positivity to other people. Let them feel that oozing from you. I think for me, I'm trying to look at alternatives for people. So rather than losing a booking, I'd rather move it, change it, adapt it, do what I've got to do, but whatever I want to do, I do not want to lose it. So talking to customers and clients again about their current booking and how I can adapt it with them, maybe reduce the number of people you're going to invite, or maybe move it to a bigger room, or let's do a plated served meal as opposed to a buffet. And, just like I say, think outside the box, go the extra mile for people, move it, don't lose it. And then I think the last thing would be about the people by people thing again. Show you care, empathise with people, find out what's worrying them, let them lean on you a bit and let them feel that they can trust you, and build that trust with people.